I think one of the biggest draws to the paranormal as a subject is that we're dealing with the unknown, the unanswered questions. In the case of ghosts and the supernatural, does our consciousness or some part of us remain after our physical bodies perish? This is perhaps the oldest question human beings have ever asked. There's something primal about it. And we're still searching for the answer. My name's Nick Smith-Koblitz. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Queens, New York, and I'm the founder of Crypto Paranormal Investigations. CPI is a special research team that conducts objective investigations into claims of paranormal activity and allegedly haunted locations through a scientific lens. Well, my day job is as a videographer and editor, and I actually got started in that career through my work in the paranormal field.
Hi, my name is Miranda Arthur Smith. I am 27 years old, and I am the tech specialist. I originally knew of Crypto Paranormal because I was friends with Nick beforehand and got introduced to it from him. Then I signed a contract in 2012 joining the group. I got my undergraduate degree in psychology and sociology, and now I'm doing my master's in clinical psychology. As for Pam, she's our newest member to the group. She joined in 2016.
My name's Pam Sangan. I work in customer service, and I'm an investigator in training with CPI. I didn't have any eye-opening experience that made me want to go and search for more or anything like that. It's just general interest.
I founded CPI in summer of 2004. Just before I turned 15, actually. In the early days of CPI, I spent a lot of time going to local haunts in Queens, going into cemeteries at night, abandoned buildings, really anywhere I could get in to explore. My dad ended up helping me a lot, driving me to locations, helping me set up equipment, and we ended up working a lot of really cool cases together. As time went on, and crypto became a more reputable group, we began getting calls to investigate private residences and then eventually businesses and historic locations. Now we've had the privilege of investigating hundreds of locations throughout the continental US.
As for believing in ghosts, paranormal entities and energies, I definitely believe that it's not far-fetched. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? What happens to it? Where does it go? Does it stay conscious? All those questions, to me, I find interesting.
I don't know if I believe in ghosts. I'm more inclined to say no, because I haven't had any life-changing event to make me feel otherwise. But I feel like Agent Scully, and I want to believe.
I'm not sure if I believe in ghosts, at least not in the physical sense. For the most part, all the data collected by scientists from all over the world, combined with our understanding of physical laws, seems to indicate that ghosts not only don't, but can't exist at all. Research collected by the Hadron Collider at CERN seems to indicate that there are no known particles capable of containing the information necessary to make a ghost. If you look at statistical data, on the other hand, from the US and other parts of the world, it does paint a slightly different picture. 6 out of 10 people believe in ghosts, and 4 out of 10 claim to have had a paranormal experience. Are they all lying? Are they all crazy? Or are they just the lucky ones?
There's more evidence against it than for it, but for some reason, people are still amazed by it and drawn by it. That's why you have so many shows on TV. And tons of people watch them, literally millions of people watch them. I think it's something that everybody wants answers for, but obviously there are more important things that, scientists are researching right now, but it's worth investigating.
Hello? Is there anyone here with us tonight? Is there anyone who'd like to make their presence known? Yeah. Can you make it get colder in the room?
Feeling something against my hairs.
Whoa. Something moved over here.
That was weird. It felt like something tugged on my hair.
2.3, 2.5, 5.9, 6.9.
Motion sensor. Is there someone down here right now? I don't see shit.
When Crypto conducts a field investigation of a location, we don't go in with Ouija boards, but rely heavily on technologies and trusted investigative techniques from other fields. You set it swinging, it swings open.
Yeah, it naturally doesn't want to be closed.
One of the first things Crypto does is attempt to find natural explanations for the reports of paranormal activity. And we're able to do that about 96% of the time. Whether noises are caused by pipes banging in the wall, nesting animals, or just the sounds of a house settling. Whether people are seeing a ghost because of something in the environment or a pre-existing neurologic condition. Really what we're looking for on these investigations is documenting a paranormal experience in the field as it occurs, or else capturing an anomaly on audio or video, while simultaneously recording high accuracy environmental data. If you can look back at your research from multiple investigations and find some kind of pattern or correlation, it would be the ultimate data set.
As for paranormal activity, it's definitely not how it is on TV. It's not that it occurs all the time. That's a little bit more for viewers.
I would say that paranormal shows are hurting the field. They seem kind of hokey, having been on investigations. They spend a lot more time focusing on the investigation portion and not, all the setup and all the work that goes into it. Basically any noise, anything that is strange, they'll claim that it's paranormal, when chances are it's not.
The so-called standard of investigating has come to be set by Hollywood films and reality television programs, regardless of whether the methods and tools that they're implementing are being used appropriately. And it's time to raise the bar.
It's not necessarily focused enough. There's not enough research supporting everything. So that's, I think, one of the goals of CPI is to be able to create that baseline for other researchers.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is the time it takes to conduct one of these investigations properly. This requires historical research, eyewitness interviews, and multiple field investigations. Investigations carried out by Crypto can last anywhere from a couple months to years, and I think a great example of this has been our work at Fort Sewell in Marblehead, Massachusetts.
An hour north of Boston, the small coastal village of Marblehead was settled in 1629. After nearly 2 centuries as a profitable fishing and whaling station, the town began attracting the wealthy yachting and later tourism industries that comprise most of its economy today. Many of the closely nestled houses in the district known as Old Town, near the harbor, retain their 17th and 18th century character and are adorned with plaques conveying their dates of construction, original owners, and function. A detail that seems almost kitschy in most places, but here only seems to enhance the colonial ambiance. Many of the home's former occupants fought in the American Revolution, and one, Wilmot Red, was accused and executed during the infamous witch trials in nearby Salem. Among the town's folklore and history exists some references to phantoms and other supernatural events, such as the Screaming Lady of Lovis Cove, and Wilmot Red herself, who some say still roams Old Burial Hill. But apart from eerie rumors of prisoners once held in its dungeons, Fort Sewell was never publicly known for its supernatural phenomenon until Crypto's first visit in 2006.
I've actually been familiar with Fort Sewell my entire life. My family owns a summer home in Marblehead, and I would spend most summers there when I was a kid growing up.
Built in 1742, roughly. It consists of an underground bunker. They've got like an armory and apparently a dungeon. There's also a little kitchen and bedroom and things like that. It's right on the cusp of the water so that they could shoot off their cannons to oncoming threats coming from the sea.
After I started Crypto, I decided to take a trip up to Fort Sewell, more as a training exercise than anything else. I just brought some basic equipment with me, a couple audio recorders, a still camera, and I pretty much just walked around, took some pictures, and just observed the location. When I came home from that day and reviewed my evidence, reviewed my audio, I was shocked to see I had recorded several auditory anomalies I was totally unaware of at the time.
Point 2, point 1, 2.1, coming back, coming back. Point 4 on the left, point 2.0. Are you British or American? Are you born overseas? No.
So EVPs are electronic voice phenomenon.
And this is a term that's been used in the field of parapsychology since the 1960s.
The theory behind that is that an entity or something is speaking to you or through a recording, like a tape recorder or some type of device that you don't hear in the present moment, but you hear later on when you listen to the recording.
There are a lot of factors that can come into play whenever you're doing audio recording that, if you're not careful, could easily be mistaken for paranormal activity. RF or radio interference, human contamination, and just ambient noises that may have gone unnoticed at the time.
As far as the EVPs are concerned for Fort Sewell, I definitely can say that they are not tampered with. What they mean, I can't say that they are an entity.
One of the things that struck me right away about the recordings from Fort Sewell was, for one thing, how clear they were, and the other was in the case of the EVP captured outside the sealed rooms when I had been taking EMF readings. The voice in question sounds like it's saying, "What's point 4?"
Point 4 on the left, point 2.0.
If this is actually the case, this is an intelligent question being asked to me, which of course begs the question, who's asking it? The audio recordings from Fort Sewell left me with a lot of questions, and I wanted to learn more, so I reached out to the Marblehead Museum and Historical Society. I called one day and got a very nice lady named Pam, who, as it turned out, is the director of the Marblehead Historical Society. She was great about, humoring a kid who wanted to talk about the possibility of ghosts at Fort Sewell, and we've been friends ever since.
Marblehead was established as a fishing station in the early 1600s and then incorporated as a town in 1629. And sometime in that time period is when the fort was established. And the geography of Marblehead really indicates why it was a perfect point of defense. It's at the mouth of the harbor and it's raised slightly above the harbor. The other reason that Fort Sewell was a point of defense was looking out for pirates. Pirates would wait and watch the fishing fleet leave small towns like Marblehead and know that that was a good time to come in and take whatever they wanted. So Fort Sewell was the defense for that.
Did any people die or were ever killed at the site to record?
Not that I know of. The primary time when there would have been prisoners there would have been in the War of 1812.
Do you feel that Fort Sewell might be haunted?
I think it's certainly a possibility. Conditions were pretty poor. They probably had limited rations. It would have been very cold up there. So I don't think it would have been a particularly desirable place.
After talking with the Historical Society, I went back to Fort Sewell and kept going back, and over the years collected more EVPs, as well as motion sensor spikes, video anomalies, and unusual electromagnetic conditions. One thing that I really wanted to do was try to get access to the sealed rooms at Fort Sewell. Unfortunately, that decision isn't up to the Historical Society, as Fort Sewell's under the management of the Marblehead Department of Parks and Recreation. So I wrote to the Marblehead Board of Selectmen to officially request access to the sealed chambers. In winter of 2009, they were good enough to grant me with an audience. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the selectmen on board with our research.
We'll hopefully kind of get a different answer out of them one day so we can get in there.
But in spring of 2009, Fort Sewell became the subject of crypto's first documentary film, Infrared. That night we conducted the largest and most sophisticated investigation of the fort to date. We had a team of 4 investigators with the addition of our camera operator. Thanks to the help of the next door Ocean Watch bed and breakfast letting us plug into their power outlets, we were able to run a full 8-channel CCTV system and monitor every square inch of the fort. That night while investigating, we had some of our most unusual and interesting experiences at Fort Sewell to date.
Hey Nick, what was that noise?
We had a motion sensor.
Yeah, that's what I thought I heard.
Yeah. If there is someone here, can you approach us? Can you walk towards us, please? We're definitely getting a high reading.
Is there someone here? Can you please make it go off as high as you can? Oh. Okay.
We conducted our most recent investigations of Fort Sewell in fall of 2016, about a week apart. The first was a day visit. I was joined by my newest investigator, Pam, and a crew from CBS News who followed our investigation.
My first day on the job with CPI was a little bit different because we were filming a segment for Halloween with CBS, and it was definitely intimidating because I hadn't been on camera for any reason, and we were there with a news channel, so it was definitely an interesting first day. We didn't have anything unusual happen when we were at Fort Sewell.
My tech specialist Miranda and I went back to Fort Sewell a week later, and on Halloween, we conducted a full overnight investigation of the fort. When Miranda and I got to the fort, the first thing we did was to set up our cameras and other equipment to monitor the location.
They're pretty generic angles that we've got throughout the years. We set up one sort of by where the roadway is looking in at the fort, which shows us the 3 rooms, and then there was also a camera that was put up in the upper section of the fort.
We also placed some audio recorders and motion sensors in the windows of the sealed rooms. Sensor 4 is armed. All right, all our motion sensors are up, our cameras are recording, and it's time to begin with our first set of baseline readings.
Baseline readings are set up so that you can be able to see what the normal environment is. When an abnormality happens, we can be able to tell that, the numbers are a little bit off, they're a little bit different now, so why is that happening?
Baseline readings are conducted periodically throughout an investigation, and the meters are always monitored when we conduct any kind of communicative work. AC is 0.06, 0.07. It's very important when you're taking any kind of readings where you want accuracy, instead of walking around waving a meter about the way a lot of the TV shows have us believe this is done. It's actually a lot better to put the meter down, take your reading, take multiple readings, add them up, divide by the number of numbers, and then you're left with a very high accuracy average. Crypto measures a range of conditions when we take baseline readings, everything from temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure to microwave and gamma radiation levels, as well as EMF or electromagnetic fields in the ELF and VLF frequency ranges. That's holding steady right around 2 milligauss here. It's kind of high actually, and this is interestingly the same spot where Shannon O'Neill and myself recorded an unusual event during our 2009 investigation.
Is there someone here? Can you please make it go off as high as you can? Oh. Okay.
When it comes to EMF, which stands for electromagnetic field, there are a number of different elements that come into play. There's the theory that paranormal entities are the ones that generate the EMF. And that's why you'll see on like the TV shows, when they see an EMF spike, they're like, oh, it's a ghost, it's a spirit. But on the flip side of the coin, it could also just mean that you're picking up some type of reading from a man-made object like an electrical outlet.
Everything on the planet, and indeed the known universe, gives off electromagnetic radiation at various frequency ranges. Research suggests that there is some sort of correlation between sources of high or erratic electromagnetic fields and reports of paranormal activity. Whether or not these fields are the cause or effect of that activity remains unclear at this time. First EVP session of Halloween. Things seemed pretty quiet, so we decided to switch it up a bit and attempt a little bit of EVP work.
We had some meters set up, we had some motion sensors.
Hello? Happy Halloween.
Nick's walking.
Is there anybody here with us tonight? Is there anybody here who would like to talk with us? Heard something fall, but I think that was just some leaves.
I think it was leaves moving.
Do you live here? Or are you from Marblehead? Does it bother you to see what people have done to the fort? Coming here and breaking the bars and causing damage?
So are there people that come and speak to you all the time? Do you like getting visitors? Does it bother you that no one's allowed in these rooms anymore?
Do you remember me by any chance? Do you know who I am? I've come here nearly every year to try to talk to you. I would very much like to know your name. Could you tell me your name, please? It stayed pretty quiet around the rooms. Nothing really seemed to be happening. So we took another set of baseline readings and then decided to separate and investigate different areas of the fort. I took the upper section while Miranda stayed down below to continue investigating the sealed rooms.
I basically picked one room and I sat there and I conducted the EVP session.
I brought a camera with me and set up an audio recorder and a couple meters, then pretty much just walked around and observed the environment. Nick Smith, Fort Sewell upper section, Halloween.
So hello again. Turning on flashlight. I'm gonna just hang out with you down here.
Hello? Is there anybody up here? Anybody at the fort?
How long have you been here for?
Is there anybody here who lost their life who'd like to speak with me or not speak with me?
If you are, can you Those are children walking towards us with leaves. Hey guys.
Who are you?
We're part of a paranormal group.
You guys give out candy?
No, we're just here doing an investigation of the fort.
Dude, I love the paranormal activity. That's actually pretty like you're actually like serious about ghosts.
No, we haven't seen anything.
There's a boom mic right there. What are you trying to pull on us? Mitchell, there's a camera. It's a ghost.
Breaking out the thermal? I decided to break out the thermal imaging camera and conduct a sweep of the fort. The thermal imaging camera is a really interesting piece of equipment. It actually sees hot and cold temperature changes in video format. You're not seeing light of any kind, but the reflected infrared radiation of solid objects in the environment. The thermal camera allows us to see everything from pipes in walls to nesting animals, moisture damage, and potentially any sort of thermal anomaly. The steps are still warm. They're retaining heat from the day. That is a human being walking their dog.
Are you alone in here? Or are you trapped? Do you need help? We have no intention of disturbing you. We just are interested to see if you're here, and maybe if you could tell us why you're here, if you like being here, if you stay by choice or are trapped.
I have to say the sound of leaves blowing on the ground, it just keeps sounding like somebody's walking around. You hear the rustling.
If anybody's here with me, could you make a sound or move something? Or you could touch my hand, which I have on the bar. I just heard a noise from inside the room. Was that you? During the EVP session, right after I had said, can you move something or make a noise, I heard a noise. It sounded like a leaf blowing, but maybe it could be the acoustics. That was my flashlight hitting the bar. Was that you making a sound just now? I'm gonna sit back down.
When I met back up with Miranda, she told me that she had been hearing some noises coming from inside the sealed rooms. So we decided to investigate further and see if we could figure out what was making the sounds she had been hearing. What's going on?
I don't know, but because it sounded like a leaf, but it sounded like from in there, and I had just asked to make a sound. And it sounded like it was coming from in there, so I asked again to make a sound, and it happened again.
Really?
I don't know if it's like the leaves and kind of acoustics.
I hope I'm not disturbing you by coming back over. Were you enjoying talking with my friend Miranda? Do you like talking with Miranda more than you like talking with me? Nothing else really happened that night. Things unfortunately stayed pretty quiet. So around 4 o'clock in the morning, we took our final set of baseline readings. Temp 52 degrees, humidity 60%, before packing up and driving back to our offices in Queens. Over the next week and a half, I had to review all of the material that we collected from that night's investigation and the daytime visit I did with Pam the week before.
There's usually a lot of different audio and visual recordings that have to be sat through and monitored to be able to see if anything has occurred.
Evidence review is a very important part of the investigation. You have to watch everything very closely and pay attention. You can't fast forward through anything, and it often takes several days to up to a week to go over all the material you collect.
It's definitely a patience game.
One of the things that I looked into from the Halloween investigation were the sounds that Miranda had said she had heard coming from inside the sealed rooms.
I just heard a noise from inside the room.
Was that you? It sort of sounded like rustling, but not necessarily of like leaves, like wind blowing leaves or something like that. It sounded sort of a little bit intentional, but there are lots of other factors to consider as well. At the time, at least, I had said, you know, can you make a sound for me? And I heard a sound. So that to me was a response.
We were able to capture the sounds on audio, but after listening to them, I think this is just leaves or other debris blowing around. It was pretty windy that night, so I really can't say this is anything paranormal.
Fort Sewell was a very interesting location. It's beautiful, number one, and number two, there's a lot of history behind it, so I would love to be able to go back for an overnight investigation.
Yeah, we weren't able to get the ultimate data set that night, but Fort Sewell is a fantastic location. I love investigating it, and I love Marblehead. It's just such a great town. I'm sure it's just a matter of time before we'll be heading back to continue our research there.